I've got the work hat on, which makes me look like a mushroom, but what can you do when you look like a mushroom? And it's pissing rain out. This is the type of weather we have in December, trying to finish off the van build, and it's absolutely pissing rain. But anyway, that's the Irish weather. Note to self: don't ever build a camper van in the winter in Ireland. Welcome back to the channel. On this episode I'm going to be installing the kitchen sink faucet. I already tried installing this kitchen faucet, but when I went to install it I discovered that it didn't have the correct parts. I then had to reorder another faucet so I could get the correct parts. Here's the new faucet, and the part that the previous faucet didn't have was the most important part, because without it you can't actually fix it to the underside of the sink. What it does is it screws on from underneath the sink, and then you secure it with these two screws up into the kitchen countertop. And this kitchen faucet, the previous one, the only fitting it had for under the counter was this, and it didn't even tighten. So when you were going to tighten, it kept slipping. And I got onto the company, I told them it was the wrong kitchen faucet, and they explained to me that it was the correct one, and they never replied back to me since. So luckily enough, I ordered it from Amazon and I got a full refund. I'm now stuck with a kitchen faucet that doesn't have the correct fittings, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Hopefully I can get a correct fitting in the future, maybe pass it on to someone and get some money back for it. So that's this one gone, and in this episode I will be installing the new kitchen faucet. Now that I've got that bit of a rant out of the way, I'm going to install the kitchen faucet, and once I have it installed I'm going to hook up the hot and cold water into the kitchen faucet and then fill up my tank and make sure that everything is running from the tank to the kitchen tap and then to the shower. Once I have that all running and I'm happy with it, that there's no leaks and stuff, I can then close in this end wall here that has the switch gang socket on it. So the way this works, I stand corrected. These screws, you screw them into the actual washer. So once the plastic washer goes on, then you put on the stainless steel washer, and then you put on your locking nut and you lock it, and then you lock it as tight as you can, and then to finish what you do is you tighten these screws and they push up against the stainless steel washer, and then that secures the actual sink faucet in place and stops it from rocking or moving around. And without this, like in a previous faucet that I had, it's just going to be impossible to actually get a good it's going to be impossible to get a good, strong, tight fitting faucet. In order to tighten this locking nut from underneath the sink, you need this is called a water hose spanner, I think that's the correct name. I'll put a link anyway in the description for the tool that you need. So a standard spanner won't work, because most of them only go up as far as 32, I think. So this one will do the trick, and should be able to lock it in like that. The next step is to connect the two water hoses to the inlets. So you've got a hot and a cold, and it's important to connect the cold to the cold and the hot to the hot. And luckily enough, on this faucet you have on the very front of it here where the tap is, you have on the left side a red dot, and on the right side you have got a blue dot. So that's going to make, hopefully installing these easier because you install the red one to the left and the blue one to the right. So let's give that a go. The tap's now installed, but I just gotta now hook it up to the water supply, and what they come with is 2 of these, and then you're supposed to wrap them in PTFE tape and then tighten them in, and then that will connect to your water supply. You'll plumb that in. But because we've got the John Guest fittings, I'm going to swap them out for 2 of these John Guest fittings. And what it is basically it's a threaded John Guest fitting to the push fit fitting, so that will allow me then to connect the semi-rigid piping for the water, the blue and the red. And I've got 2 of them, and what I'm going to do also is use some of the Boss White for the, and I'm going to put that inside in the threaded pipe. Now that I have the tap installed, I've got to cut this push fit pipe fitting to length and then use these John Guest fittings and then hook it all up. And once I have that done, I'll run through it and explain to you exactly what I've done and why. So let's get cracking on that. The kitchen faucet is now completely installed. I have all the plumbing installed and I have it connected up. I didn't show it because it's very dark in here, but I will run through it in another episode in a different video, and I will explain exactly how it's all hooked up and how the plumbing is connected to the sink. So as you can see, that's the pull down hose, and it just means that it comes out as far as there and it goes 360. This is the same as the other faucet that I had that didn't have the correct fitting, and as you can see, it was also an extendable hose. You could pull it down. So if you don't have the correct fitting, like when you're doing that constantly, and if you just got it half-arsed held in with the wrong fitting that they sent me, it's not going to last very long. I'm happy so far with how it looks and how it feels. It's very high quality, and I will stick the link in the description below this video to the kitchen faucet, and if you want to purchase it, you can purchase it through Amazon. That's where I got it. Before I fill up the water tank and test the tap that it's running okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the basin waste. This is the same basin waste that I've used in the shower, and I decided to get this again because it's very good quality and also it doesn't have an overflow. So I just wanted to go directly to the outside of the van, and because I'm going to be using eco-friendly washing up liquid, and also before I actually go to wash the dishes, what I'll do is clean the dishes, wipe them down with a bit of kitchen roll, and then dispose of the kitchen roll. You're going to be washing the dishes clean and there'll be no food going down through the kitchen sink, as not a lot of food, because you're going to clean that with the kitchen paper. The way this goes is it's pretty easy. Just from, you've got a locking nut that secures from underneath and on top, then you put these two, the 2 plastic washers. You put these up first and then the locking bolt. Alright, now that I have the faucet installed and it's all hooked up to the plumbing. I've filled up my water tank, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the control panel, and there's the control panel, and flick on the water pump. And now what I want to look for is any spots that might be leaking. So you can't see in there because it's very dark, but it's coming down from there, and then in there it looks okay. Then it runs, oh, you can't see there either. Anyway, it runs down along the back, connects into the shower. I'll show you this in the plumbing video anyway. And I'm just making sure that there's no leaks. And it appears to be good. So, test it, see if I have water. So I think what's happening at the moment is well, I hope it's what's happening, is the water heater is filling up at the moment. So once that's full, I'm hoping that the tap will work and not be flirting out like that. The pump has just stopped, and hopefully now there we go. And you can hear it in the back working away. Alright, so you can see I've got a bit of dripping water there, so I think I forgot to put PTFE tape on that joint, so I've got to make sure. We're going to have to get some PTFE tape and seal that joint, and put a bit of plumber's some Boss White, and stop that leak down there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole for the waste, but first I've got to get a pipe, a waste pipe that actually fits, because this waste pipe doesn't fit, it's slightly too tight. So that's my next task. Alright, the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in the floor of the van for the waste pipe. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a 2mm drill bit and drill down through the floor, and then from the underside of the van, this is why I have my head torch, I'm going to go under the van and look to see where the drill bit has come under the van. And I've used a 2mm drill bit because that's the smallest. You just want to put a small, you don't want to be drilling big holes in your van. This is quite an important step because there's so much stuff under the van that you can drill into, and you go under the van and you don't see where the drill bit is because you've drilled into like a cross beam section, and then that means if you don't see the drill bit, there's no point drilling a big hole, because that big hole is going to end up in like a cross beam section, and you can't actually put the pipe through. So it's very important to drill the holes first before you start drilling big holes. So here we go. What I'll do is I'm going to go and say around here, and I'm going to leave that drill there and go to the outside of the van underneath, and hopefully I can see where the drill bit has come through from underneath. I've gone outside to check where that drill bit has come through, and I haven't seen anything, so I can't see the drill bit. So there's actually a beam where I think the drill bit is. It's gone into that beam, so there's a beam running across and you can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the van and I'm going to measure the distance from this valve, because there's a pipe running through the floor of the van, and I'm going to measure across from the distance of that pipe, distance between the pipe and where I think the cross beam is running. And then what I can do then is I can come back inside and I can then measure again from the valve to where the beam is, and then that will allow me to avoid the beam when I'm drilling through the floor of the van. So I'm going to go out and give that a go. I'm not going to film it because it's a very tight space under the van. It's dark, it's cold out, and we're just going to give it a go, and then hopefully when I drill the next time it'll be okay. The next step is to get under the van and to apply some of this rust protection to protect it from rust. And then once I have that done, I'm going to connect the hose pipe here that I have on the floor, the messy floor, to this connection. And I'll probably cut this, we'll see, but this is, I had to get this to screw it on to connect it to this. And where the hell is that? Oh, there. This, that will then connect here, and that will slot into this hose pipe here. So I'm going to get cracking on that and then see how we get on. I now have the kitchen waste all installed, and it's running from the sink to the outside of the van. I use this to seal all those joints, and then I connected the hose waste filler to the bottom of it and then ran it out to the underside of the van. The reason I did that was because that sink waste was just slightly too big for the 40mm waste hose pipe, so I had to find a way, because I didn't want to be jamming on the hose pipe onto the waste outlet, and then it give me problems down the line. So I'm hoping that this is a good fix, and it's pretty solid, so it's not going to be moving anywhere. And the next thing to do is I'm going to fill in this hole here with some of this adhesive that I have left over from when I did the windows, and that should do the trick. That's the end of this episode. I now have the kitchen tap installed, and I also have the waste installed to the outside of the van. I've got the sink, the waste, and the kitchen tap is all plumbed in. And you can see there is the waste pipe down there, plumbed in and connected, and the tap is connected back there. hope you found this episode of the van build useful, and how to install a kitchen sink tap, also how to run your waste to the outside of the van. And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below this video and I'll reply to you as soon as possible. Also, if you want to follow along with the build, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like and click the notification bell icon, and you'll be the first to be notified for future videos in the van build series. Thanks a million for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of this van build. See ya.